Welcome, everyone. I'm Mariquita Solis, the live stream host of all-creatures.org. All-creatures.org was founded in 1998 by Pastor Frank Hoffman and his first wife, Mary, and launched as the pioneer website in the United States for faith-based animal rights veganism. Today, led by our executive director, Tams Nicholson, we exist for all people seeking current animal rights vegan resources and offer decades of free animal rights and vegan content, including a huge repository of vegan sermons, Bible commentaries, animal rights strategies, free vegan authored books, recipes, upcoming events around the world, and the works of various vegan authors, poets, and artists. We host current sites for almost 20 vegan and animal rights organizations, including Stop Crush, Unparalleled Suffering, and the Committee to Abolish Sports Hunting. We also maintain nearly 25 archival sites from animal rights, vegan activism of past decades. The bottom line is that we work to unite compassionate and empathetic humans across the globe, from the past and present, who honor the dignity of each and every creature so that all beings thrive on a flourishing planet Earth. So today I'm excited that you're joining us. Please give StreamYard permission to use your name and get your questions ready and comments, because I'm excited to welcome Michael Prikryl. Michael is an international animal liberation activist and vegan singer, songwriter, and pianist. He was born in the Czech Republic, grew up in Germany, and studied and lived in the United States, and also lived in Canada and in the UK. His main areas of studies, and he has a master's, were journalism, communication, and English writing. He's a regional organizer for Anonymous for the Voiceless for the U.S. West Coast, Czech Republic, and Southeastern Nordic Europe, as well as local organizer in Olomouc, Czech Republic. He is also a contributor for UnchainedTV. Michael has written, recorded, and released several vegan songs on all major music platforms under the artist name Pianomike. So listen to Michael via vegansong.org. He's a motivational speaker, sometimes speaking at conferences about various topics such as music, communication, vegan travel, spirituality, among others, and is also doing outreach workshops. He speaks fluently English, German, Czech, and French, as well as some basic Spanish. So welcome, Michael. I'm excited that you're here with us, and I'm excited to hear your journey. It sounds like you've been around the world.
Yeah, thank you, Mariquita. Really appreciate this opportunity to be here. Yes, I've been a perpetual traveler most of my life, I could say. And traveling is one of my passions. And what you see on the background is a favorite spot. This is the California coast, actually, near Half Moon Bay.
Nice. It's beautiful. Well, I'm glad you're joining us today. And where are you today?
Today I'm in Olomouc, Czech Republic, where I partially reside and where I lead the local chapter for Anonymous for the Voiceless. It's a city about 2.5 train hours east of Prague or north of Vienna.
All right. Well, I'll have to try to make it out there one day. Put it on my bucket list.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so tell us, how did your start begin? Your start in veganism. What led you to make the transition?
I had some vegan friends already for the last 20 years. And now one would think that if you have vegan friends, you would make the click in your mind. But as we see all over the world, that's not always the case. And it didn't make click to me until 2016, when I went vegan in July. A few months before that, I stopped eating meat. So end of 2015, I saw the documentary Earthlings. And prior to that, I saw Melanie Joy's video about why we eat pigs and not dogs. Okay, and so it got me thinking, and then at some point I saw Gary Rofsky's speech, the best speech you'll ever hear. And that's probably when I really made the decision to go vegan, to realize that it's not only rejecting meat, but it's rejecting all forms of exploitation is necessary.
And so it sounded like you had some friends already that were vegan. That must have been wonderful.
It was. I remember I was going to some parties that these friends had, and one really great memory I had was of a vegan cheesecake back in 2004 or something like that. And it was super delicious. And I would think maybe there was some influence on me because I was reducing the animal products since then. I was also only buying vegan cosmetics back since the early 2000s. So it was kind of a step-by-step thing, but today I would say, yeah, that's not adequate. We want people to go vegan faster than such vast journey. But those were different times back then. Now we are much more advanced when it comes to the education and the knowledge.
Right. And now, can you make a good vegan cheesecake? Because I need the recipe.
I wish I could. I'm not very good at. Well, I do love baking. Certain things like I can't think of the English word now. Hefezopf in German. But yeah, I'm not very good at pastry and cakes. But there are millions, or maybe not millions, but there are many recipes all over the internet.
Right. Okay. So everybody that's watching, please put your good recipes for a vegan cheesecake or any recipes, and also get your questions for Michael here, because we're going to keep on talking. And so what about your family? When you went vegan, what did they say?
Well, they were a bit surprised. And this was not only with vegan. I started eating mainly organic already earlier than going vegan. But when I went vegan, I remember my mom was saying like, "Oh my gosh, my son, all this time, we've been an inspiration to him, and now he's sort of gone in a completely different direction." And so she was just kind of shocked, but early enough started to understand my stance and realized that, yeah, there's nothing that can shake me away from this.
Well, that's wonderful. That it sounded like that she was pretty. Well, she was a little bit hesitant, but then she was open-minded enough to not cause a lot of friction between you all, which is wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I also, of course, at the beginning, when you're vegan first, and so you're pretty new to all the interactions with non-vegans, and so it's always posing a challenge to know exactly how to interact. And the natural instinct is to try to convince people, but when you do it the wrong way, it creates that friction that you're talking about, and that's kind of what was happening. And at some point I realized, okay, they're not open-minded enough, so I better not talk to them about veganism. And when I made that clear, they actually started respecting me even more, because now they're like, no, the boundaries.
Wonderful. Well, that's definitely good to know. I mean, know who you're talking to and be aware if they're open to it or not. So yeah. So how does the peace of not eating creatures manifest in your life today?
It became normality for me in my mind, and of course in my lifestyle. So you don't even think about, like, for me, being vegan, I don't even think about it, oh, this is something extraordinary. I actually think of it as, this is the norm. This is what everybody should do.
Right.
And all the way to the point where I'm trying to manifest a vegan world. So when you focus on what you want, sometimes when I walk into a supermarket, I already imagine that everything's vegan there. I walk into a restaurant and I imagine it's a vegan restaurant, even though I don't do it very often now to go to non-vegan restaurants, but only in emergencies.
Right. What would you do with someone that's struggling, a new vegan that isn't an activist and just says, I can never be an activist, I can barely get out of bed. I'm so sad and depressed. What would you tell that person?
I think I would encourage them by asking them, how do you think a vegan world will come about? By just you staying at home and doing nothing? And do you think that the minority of humans right now that are actually active, that's enough in order to bring a change? And the clear answer is, or the hope for that person is to realize that, oh my gosh, that's not enough. We need way more people to become active, and in whatever ways resonates with them, of course.
Right. And I think the good thing about becoming active is meeting people like you and that have already know how to speak to other people and what works. And also that when you meet other vegans, you have the support of them.
Yeah.
And that's so
Yeah,
important.
definitely.
Yeah. Well, so now you said that you were with Anonymous for the Voiceless, right? Well, I have that little clip and I'd love to share it. Is this the, let me see. Now this was at the VCOP this past weekend, the Vegan Convergence of the People for Climate Healers. And so let me see, everybody have patience with the tech person here. Here we go.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Share screen. Here we go. Give me one
Yeah.
second.
So this was a mini workshop I've done, a skimmed down version of normally a longer workshop on how to talk to non-vegans, and of course geared and curated towards people who attend Cube of Truth, but you can use it in any situation.
Okay, now I hope that everyone can hear it. It didn't ask about settings probably don't need to have settings for sharing the audio. I would think it would automatically, but I'm gonna play it and let's just see. All right.
Go. Yeah. Okay, so before we even get into animal liberation outreach, we need to be clear on what veganism is. So veganism was defined by Leslie Cross as a doctrine, today we would say principle, an ethical principle, that humans should live without exploiting other animals, meaning non-human animals. It has nothing to do with human health, human rights, environment, affection, love, likability, positivity, or even reduction of suffering. Veganism is also, it's not an identity, it's not a lifestyle, it's not a diet. It's really just that principle. And out of this principle, of course, follows a certain lifestyle that vegans do. And imagine if somebody came up to you and said, well, I'm against racism, I'm against sexism. That's not an identity. It's also not a lifestyle. It's just a stance against injustice. So being vegan means you are rejecting the exploitation of other animals. And this is really about the root cause of the animal holocaust, of the animal, of the cruelty, of everything that happens in this world that it's done to animals. The root cause is the mindset. It's the human supremacist mindset that we need to address. And out of that follows another root cause, the exploitation of other animals. And then all the things that we see are the symptoms of this. So vegan outreach means we are speaking up for the victims in the exactly same way that you would want to be spoken up for if you were in their position. So we are a medium of truth, and we are enacting change by prioritizing the victims and not the oppressors. Now, humans are the oppressors. So that's something always to have in the back of our minds. Now, if you aren't speaking up for the animals in the same way that you would want to be spoken for, or if you were in the slaughterhouse, you're just simply not doing justice to the victims. So a successful outreach interaction is centered around two things: holding individuals accountable for what they're personally responsible for what they're demanding, and also taking an action. I mean, asking them to take an action, to go vegan. Yeah, I think we can stop here.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah.
And we can share the link to this workshop if anybody's interested. It's on Climate Healers YouTube channel.
Yes, and that's a very wonderful organization. I'm happy to be a certified climate healer, and that's where I met Michael. And that's how this all came about.
Yeah.
So tell me about Anonymous for the Voiceless. Hi, Sarah. Sarah's in, I think, California. She used to live here in Atlanta. So, yes, we were sharing that from VCOP 20, which was Rewilding Climate Healers, Vegan Convergence of the People last weekend. So Anonymous for the Voiceless. Now, I was actually at a march here in Atlanta, and it was a people's march. And we marched through downtown Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and I was so happy to see Anonymous for the Voiceless out there with the screens and everything. And I said, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to cry with joy that they were there. So tell me about that program. And so when you're doing that, holding the screens, you don't talk at all? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so Anonymous for the Voiceless is a animal liberation organization. That's, I would say now, animal liberation more than animal rights, but that's probably another discussion. And we do street outreach. So we have actually 2 roles at the Cube, or sometimes even 3. So one group stands in a artistic formation that resembles a cube. So it's usually 2 or 4 people. Sometimes could be 1 person, sometimes could be 8. And they don't talk. They just hold the screens in a steady, silent manner. And we really pay attention to aesthetics, the symmetry, because we want to be as professional as possible so that non-vegans are taking us seriously. And the other role is of activists around the Cube that are talking to the public. So when a bystander stops, they get and they show interest, they get approached pretty quickly, and that's where we run that protocol that I talked about at VCOP. And we ask them a set of questions, and we hold them accountable. We place them in a position of the victim, and we lead them to a vegan conclusion.
And So how do you speak to them? Like, what are the main elements of the way you're speaking to people? Because isn't there, I mean, you all really work with your volunteers.
Yeah, we speak to them in an edifying way. So we're not pushing anything onto them. We're showing them essentially a mirror of their character by asking them simple questions. And so it comes down to simplicity. And that's why it's important that we have a protocol, so we're all on the same page, knowing what to say. And so we use that as a guideline. So we use a method called the Socratic method, where you mostly ask questions, and here and there you fill in some statements when necessary, or when they have questions, so you can respond. And like I said in the video, we aim at holding them accountable. So we don't let them get away with excuses and objections. In fact, now we just, instead of addressing the excuses, most of the time, we just immediately place them in the position of the victim and ask them something like, well, if you were in the position of the victim, if you were in the slaughterhouse and somebody came up with this excuse, would that be acceptable? How absurd would that be, right? And so, sometimes we do address concerns. When an excuse comes as a genuine concern, we do address it. And yeah, so we lead them through a logical process, and we avoid the conversation to get into a debate.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you have to really be mindful there, because it's easy to get in debates. What about, like, if somebody says, well, I can never give up cheese? What would you say to that person?
I would say, oh, I used to be a cheese lover too. And I thought the same way before I went vegan. And then when I realized what the dairy industry does to the animals and how horrific that is, and that it's exploitation. And on top of that, which is not a necessity, but on top of that, as a bonus, we now have all these options, such as vegan cheeses, vegan creams, and creme fraiche, and so on. That's when I made the switch. So yeah, you can address that question similarly by drawing from your own personal experience. So that way you're connecting with that person, because they might feel similarly.
And what do you think about, are there many people that say, I'm going to go vegan now, or what is the general response?
It really varies from cube to cube. Sometimes we have cubes that not a single person declares going vegan. Other times we have cubes where a third of the people that we talk to declare vegan. So the general vibes these days is that people are a little more open-minded, as we can tell from the conversations. But also that depends on the location and the time of the day and the city. For example, recently when I went to Barcelona to do a big 2-day event, to co-organize the event called Sacred Truth, because we went in front of the Sagrada Familia. I thought that city is very much open-minded compared to even other bigger cities in Central Europe. And then you'll have smaller cities like Olomouc, which is a university town, but only about 100,000 people with a lot of villages around. So the villagers come into the city. And so it's less open-minded here. But what we've seen in the past, 6 years, 6.5, almost 7 years that I've been doing Cubes of Truth in this city, we've seen an opening up in general. of the public.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's a relief. I mean, that's really good to hear. And do you have people that are mean to you at the Cubes of Truth?
Sometimes, very rarely. We have trolls.
And so,
Yeah, teenagers who come there, mock us. But
yeah,
we've been sometimes we've been successful even with some of them, where you have a group of teenagers, and I remember 2 girls from that group were taking it seriously, because when they saw the footage, the horrific things that happened to the animals, it did something to them emotionally, and so they actually ended up talking to us, and one of them went vegan on the spot.
that's amazing. Yeah, that's very powerful. I mean, it's easy to laugh and everything if you don't see it and you don't know it. I mean, you just think that's something behind closed doors, and that's the way the system is set up. But to have those powerful images, I mean, you all have to be very brave. I'm freezing. Let me grab this. Okay. You all have to be very brave to be able to do that.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, it's one of the things we talk about in the workshop is boldness. That being brave and bold means you don't take a step back. You don't pander to the non-vegan. You don't let them manipulate you. You are in control of the conversation all the time. And then if that's the case and you said all the right things, it was a really good conversation, regardless of the outcome, because we can't control what people do. And if they're not open-minded, then it's better to just end the conversation anyway. So one of the beauty of this protocol and of the work we're doing with Anonymous for the Voiceless is that we can more or less choose who we talk to, and we can only focus on the open-minded people, and that way we don't run out of our resources and we don't burn out.
Right. And how do you, let's say someone is kind of making fun of you or saying, or, you can tell this person doesn't have an open mind. I mean, what are the exact words you might use? Because a lot of times people don't know how to get out of that without yelling or getting angry. What's a peaceful way out?
You mean to end the conversation or to just kind of soften them?
To end it.
If they start to end it. Several ways. You can say, well, I see clearly that we're turning in circles and you're not interested finding out why you should be vegan. So I'm going to have to end this conversation, and then you say bye and leave. But now, lately, what many of us have started doing is just leaving without saying anything other than one last statement that holds them accountable. When for example, they say, yeah, but I love all animals. So you could say, no, I clearly see that you do not love all animals because you continue to exploit them.
And then you would just turn and walk away.
Right. Turn and walk away, never look back. And that's so powerful, the power of walking away, because we hold them accountable for the animals they exploit, but also for wasting our time and for giving us their excuses that it all comes from their guilt, and because they can't bear their guilt, rather than transforming it into responsibility and going vegan, they choose to become defensive and throw at us all the known ludicrous objections.
Right. Wow, that's very, very interesting. And I love that stance. I mean, that powerful way that you end it with one final thought.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't remember which activist it was telling me about a conversation they had with someone, a very short conversation, and they thought that it didn't work. Somebody wearing a fur coat or something, and they thought, oh gosh, I didn't say the right thing. And then a few minutes later, that person came up crying and said, they acknowledged that what she had heard, made her cry, and she didn't want the coat anymore. So, what happens in the moment is just the seed being planted, but that you say that what you need to say in a professional, I mean, that's not the right word, but I mean, that is a good word, but professional, but kind of a responsible way to communicate. And then allow it to do the job, right? The job is still, it's still sinking in as the person walks away, and we don't ever know. We just don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Times we just don't know, right? So yeah, and that's all we can do. And I love what you're saying. I mean, about the courage and standing strong and delivering the message. So
yeah, it's a very simple message.
Right.
And you said it very well. What we say it in a responsible and professional manner.
Right. Yes, because so many people have ideas of vegans being angry and screaming and doing all this. But if we're able to present in a different manner, that we are very dignified and we're confident in what we say, and we're not worried about, we're not there to have an argument, or we're unshakable, right? Then it really sends a powerful message.
Yeah, and we're not worried about the outcome, because we know that when we get to talk to an open-minded person, it will evoke something. Even if they just leave with, oh, I might think about it. And the good thing about ending the conversation is that it frees up to talk to these open-minded people, which there are many of. And the other thing is that I lost my train of thought now, but yeah, that's
all right. Well, let me, you know what?
what I wanted to say, yeah.
I want to hear also talk about the emotions that probably come up around that. But first, I'd like to play your video. I have a video of a vegan anthem. So let me get the tech person up here and get her going again. Let's see here. All right, share screen, and I'm going to do yes, you can.
Yes. Do you want me to say something about the song?
Yeah, tell us.
So this is
can you? Yes, go ahead.
This is the 5th vegan song I wrote, and I actually co-wrote this with my friend Michael Blow from San Diego. He wrote the lyrics, and I took the lyrics and made a song out of this. And another friend of mine played the guitar, Silvano Bevere. Shout out to both of you. And thank you for this great music collaboration. So, yeah, the song, I believe this was written in 22, released in 23. And here in this video, I play in Vienna at the House of Music.
That's beautiful. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, let me make sure. Yeah, it says it's starting in the right place.
I think it's 1.5 times speed. I think the speed is off.
The aliens want you to go vegan.
It's not playing right.
It's playing a little too fast. Can you go on the gear icon and adjust it back to?
Oh. Oh, I
playback
didn't
speed.
have it on the right one.
Oh.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, it is at 1. Huh.
That's weird. Okay.
That's weird. It sounds faster than. How's okay? Bit strange.
Okay, let's try it. Is that better?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think now it's good. Yeah, I think now it's good. Well,
The cows want you to be.
Is it not playing right?
yeah, that was good. That was good.
Oh, keep playing?
Oh, up to you. Yeah. I mean, this is on YouTube. It's on my channel, Pianomike 7. YouTube.com/Pianomike 7. So if you want to link this video below, then people can view it.
Okay. Is it not working?
Yeah, I can't see it anymore.
Okay. Well, shoot. Let me try to get over here. What happened to it? Okay. All right. I'm sorry about the tech, y'all, but we will put the link in the video. I mean, we can put it here on the YouTube, I think. Definitely. I might have it right here. I have some links.
Yeah. And if you go to Spotify and you type in the search box Pianomike, all one word, you'll get the song. You'll get the original recording.
Okay, so I'm going to put it here in the chat. I'm going to try to here.
Okay, thanks.
All right, y'all. So sorry about all that. That should have gone out. I don't know. Hopefully it went out there. So Sarah Segal is saying that she met you through Climate Healers too. Climate Healers is wonderful. And what about
yeah, that's true.
So what about the people in your organization, the volunteers, and how do they handle their sadness? I mean, do y'all ever have tell me about what you all say afterwards or before the events start in Anonymous for the Voiceless.
Well, we hold briefings at the beginning and at the end. And the beginning briefing is to explain again how things should run during the event, just to remind us all. And that way there's a smooth operation. And professional, of course, but it's also an opportunity to motivate activists to say, hey, we are now doing something really, really important for the animals. This is not a socializing event, so we need to be focused on outreaching people. And at the end, we gather our impressions from the event. We talk about, everybody gets a chance to say anything extraordinary that happened, how many people went vegan during their interactions, and so on. And this exchange is really valuable because it keeps volunteers motivated.
And how I would think that would be a very challenging thing to do as a volunteer. How do they deal with the sadness? I mean, do some of them cry at the end of the cubes, or do they get overwhelmed?
Well, as far as volunteers, it has happened where new volunteers have cried. But experienced volunteers, you get sort of accustomed, unfortunately, but it's true. You get accustomed to viewing the footage, and sometimes you don't even have to watch it. You can sort of glance to the side, but it's good to watch it when you're talking with somebody, so you can point to something that's happening on the screen in the moment. So as you do more and more cubes, you will become polished, let's say, and it won't affect you so much. And the sadness for new ones, how we address it is we support each other. It's like we're one big family worldwide, and we support each other. And I think that means a lot to especially new vegans, but any vegans who feel lonely in this world because their peers may not be vegan, their family may not be vegan. So here now they have an opportunity to do something great for the animals and feel better about themselves. And so we always keep a positive mindset because we believe that we will achieve a vegan world in our lifetimes.
Right. And I believe that too, definitely. So well, I don't even remember. I had something in mind now. I just lost it. And Anonymous for the Voiceless, as you said, it was worldwide. So how would you know about setting up, if this is something you might want to do for your community? What is the requirement there to be a leader?
Yeah, to be an organizer. So yeah, you should be organized. I mean, but also that you'll acquire more skills as you already fulfill the role. But you want to have some basic organization skills, good communication skills, obviously open-minded and outgoing. If you're a shy person and you come to the cube, you may not, and you're afraid to talk to the public. That would be a challenge. And of course, also you want to have that dedication and the drive to actually lead a group of activists at every cube and just make it happen, make those cubes happen on a regular basis.
Yeah, how much time do you have to devote if you wanted to be a leader, or not? That's not the right word, but an organizer. If you
organizer, yeah, you're a leader, or you're an organizer or leader. It varies. It varies on the size of the chapter. Like bigger cities might require a little more time because you're dealing with more volunteers, and then so you're involved in communications. But I would say on a weekly basis, maybe 2 to 5 hours per week.
Okay.
Depending on how many cubes you do, also.
And so let us know if you have any questions, everybody that's watching. Also, how do you pick the places? I mean, how do you know where's a safe place to do the cube?
Well, so every organizer these days now they scout for places when they first start out, and so they might go actually and look around and see is there good foot traffic, is it a safe area, and so on. And of course, existing organizers, if somebody applies to be a co-organizer and so basically already comes into an existing chapter, then they've already have their places figured out.
So can you go on like just a sidewalk, or I mean, how does that work?
So that depends on the country, the city. But in most countries, you can go anywhere on public property. So now in some countries, in most European countries, I should say, you have to announce that. You have to announce like a public gathering to the city. It's not an application, it's just an announcing. And if you don't hear from them within a certain amount of time, it's approved. In the United States, I think in most states, you don't even have to do that. So you can just set up and hold the cube. So it's easier from that angle. It's easier in the United States, and I'm not sure in how it is in other parts of the world, but having to announce the gathering, that's not going to stop us, obviously. So it's, once you know how to do it, you do it mostly online and just send it off to the city, and there you go. And sometimes we get checked on by police, but in recent times, like in our city, we haven't even been checked on. Police drives by and they look what's going on, and because they already know us. And I've heard that in other cities, it's a similar thing. I've even heard that in a couple of chapters that they stopped announcing it because the police, the city, they know what they're doing, and it's not like a huge march of 1,000 people, but there may be 10 people or 5 people or 15. So that's not a big group.
But it's effective. I mean, I walked by quickly. I saw 2 people with monitors, and I think someone was over by the side. But as I was marching on, I couldn't just stop and talk. I mean, all I could say was thank you, yell thank you. So if I had more time, of course, I would have stopped. But I mean, I see what you're saying. I saw the screen for a second, and that was it. I mean, that, of course, I don't want to focus on that, but, I could see where you would be doing a job. This is my job, and that's some, and then you would, now I don't even want to say the word desensitize isn't a very good word. It would just be more of you would have to get into the practical mindset of it, of like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the voice for animals and do my best. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so what other activism have you done? And before, have you done more than Anonymous for the Voiceless before you joined their work?
Yeah. I've done a few other things. I mean, first I joined a local group here in Olomouc and also in some other cities in Central Europe, like Prague and Vienna, on occasional protests. A few times I've been to vigils. Even when I started AV in Olomouc, I've been to a few vigils.
Tell us what those are in case somebody's listening and they don't know.
Yeah, so a vigil is it's organized by the Safe Movement. Those are events where a group of activists would go to a slaughterhouse or a farm and for once sort of pay tribute. I don't know if you can say that. Pay tribute to the animals, like mourn the animals that are being killed there and or exploited, and at the same time also show protest. So whether it's with banners or show their rejection against this to maybe truck drivers that are delivering animals. And this could be a powerful way of coming to terms with the sadness, because you can let those emotions out, especially there. I did stop going to these vigils because I found from an effectiveness standpoint, they're not as effective unless you have 100 people show up and all the mainstream media is there. So that would be great. Vigils like that, where you see it on the 6 o'clock news every day. That's what we need.
Yeah. Well, what about in the other countries? I mean, would you say that compared to the US, are people more open-minded, would you say, over in Prague or, in the other areas of Europe? Possibly.
I would say it's about the same. It's funny how humanity has all these patterns, behavioral patterns, and they are really very similar or the same all throughout the world, in most parts, especially like United States and Europe, very similar because, well, obviously many US citizens are descendants of European families. So I would say some countries are still less open-minded. Like the Czech Republic is a bit less open-minded than like Germany, Austria. But it's been going better here, and activism is very strong here.
How many are you in your local group? How many do you have in your group? Anonymous.
We have so our cubes are pretty small, and so yeah, this is a call to all vegans who are not active, and if anybody's listening in the Olomouc greater metro area, please join us. Go to jointhecube.com, find your nearest chapter. In this case, if you're in Olomouc, just look up that city and join the Facebook group. But we have right now usually on average like anywhere between 4 to 6 activists that come on a regular basis. But our group is around 10 to 15.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, I saw just the two, and then I know there was someone out there somewhere there, I think. Of course there was another person, so it doesn't take much. I mean, one screen is very powerful.
Yeah, and then we're not even so much worried about the attendance. Of course, it's better to have steady attendance in some good size number, but we say quality over quantity. So as long as you are 2 people, so organizer and 1 more volunteer, you can be there with 1 screen, and the organizer can do the outreach, and then you just swap, and it's still effective. I mean, I have veganized people in that with this kind of arrangement, just 2 people.
I believe it. Yeah. And what would you say about people that say, well, I don't make a difference? Do you hear that? Do you hear that as an argument? I can't make a difference.
Yeah. It's interesting they would say that, because maybe what they need to do is think more specific rather than generic and global. Think more specific, like if you live by example and your friends and family notice, and at some point some of them will go vegan, there you already made a difference in their lives, and then they can talk about it, and then they make a difference. So or another way I would say is, what do you think about, like, people like Martin Luther King? There's one person made an incredible difference. So there's always the domino effect, and if we keep a positive mind, then one person can definitely make a difference.
Well, that's true. I believe that. And you're really making a difference. And also traveling around the world and with your song and everything. So
yeah.
Wonderful. So tell us again, I mean, we have just a couple more minutes, and I didn't see any questions, but I do see a lot of people are shy watching. So thanks for watching, y'all, and check out the links. Give us your final words, Michael.
Final words is, so if you are vegan and you're not active, think about this. The animals have only vegans and actually vegan activists to rely on. And the non-vegans, for the non-vegans, vegan activists are the only ones that will ever hold them accountable, that will ever talk to them about veganism. Nobody else will talk to them about veganism. They don't talk among each other about it. Au contraire, they probably mock veganism. Whenever they talk about veganism, then they often mock it, which is, it's just horrible. It's heartbreaking that in this world we have people actually mocking violence. So, and I've also, I want to say this, that I know some people might not believe this, but I have noticed in my city a indirect correlation between when we do have cubes, suddenly we have here a restaurant pop up. And I've heard about it in other cities where it actually does correlate, because, and not so much that, oh, now you're going to veganize one person and then they're going to open a restaurant. That it may happen too, but more that if you veganize people in the city, they're going to demand more vegan products. They're going to demand vegan restaurants, and they're going to keep these vegan restaurants in business. So there's a correlation, and that's a message to all the vegans who are sharing recipes and who are desperately looking for vegan options everywhere so they can have a nice meal, which is understandable, but doing alone that is not going to help the animals, right? So, but the bonus effect of helping the animals, of becoming active, is that you're going to have better options and more vegan restaurants.
Well, that's very interesting effect. So I love that. And so then tell us again where they can find you.
So yeah, you can find my music, vegan music, on vegansong.org. And from there, you can click into all your favorite platform, be it Spotify or iTunes or YouTube Music or Pandora. And on Instagram, you can find me under Pianomike 4, on YouTube under Pianomike 7, and on Facebook you can find me under Vegan Michael or Vegano Mike.
Wonderful. All right, everybody, don't forget to go to www.all-creatures.org to check out the hundreds of thousands of pages of free resources updated daily, 7 days a week without break. Sign up for our weekly newsletter, and be sure to search vegan churches on our site to find vegan faith-based resources near you. And if you don't know of one, if you do know of a resource that's not on our list, please reach out to our executive director, Tams, at all-creatures.org. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. Sarah Siegel, thank you for watching, and everyone else. And please check out Mike's work. And thank you, Michael.
You're very welcome, and big shout out and hugs to Sarah. She's doing amazing work for the animals too.
She is, isn't she? Yes. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and leave comments if you're watching on the replay, and make sure to subscribe and like. Thanks y'all for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.